Hi everyone, and welcome to the March edition of our 2024 Filet Crochet Calendar blanket. So we're going to be working this clover leaf pattern into the March square. I am using green, but you can use any color that you want. We're going to start with little accents down at the bottom, finishing with those same accents at the top, and working the clover leaf in the middle. All of the information for this 2024 blanket is in the description box down below, so check that out if you're new to the channel or the project. And let's get right into March clover leaf. For the March square, I am using Impeccable by Loops and Threads. This color is called Grass, and as usual with this entire blanket, I am using a 4.5mm crochet hook. To start, we are going to start with a slip knot on our hook, and you want to chain 48. Once you have your 48 chains, you're going to work back into the fourth chain away from the hook. 1, 2, 3, into that chain we're going to work a double crochet and a double crochet into every stitch or chain all the way back down. So row 1, reading right to left, is all double crochets. The graph has those boxes which are shaded in. Anytime the box on the graph is shaded in, it counts as 4 double crochets. Row 1, reading right to left, all double crochets, all shaded in boxes. So just 1 double crochet into every chain for row 1. For row 2, in every even row, we read from left to right on the graph. The graph tells us that we have 2 shaded in blocks and then a space. So the 2 shaded in blocks, we work like this. We're going to start every row with a chain 3. This chain 3 counts as a double crochet. We're going to turn. That double crochet sits right on top of this double crochet. So that is your first stitch. Each block is 4 double crochets. This is double crochet number 1. So we're going to work a double crochet in the next 3. And there is block number 1. In filet crochet, that last stitch that you did from this first block counts as the first stitch of your next block. So there's stitch number 1. We need another block, so we're going to work a double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And there are our 2 blocks. Now essentially you have your chain 3 to start, counts as a double crochet, and a double crochet into the next 6 stitches. Our graph now says that we have a space. A space is a double crochet, which we already have from our last box, chain 2, so we're going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. So an open, unshaded in square is equal to, again, 4 stitches, but it's going to be a double crochet, skip 2, chain 2, and a double crochet in the next. A shaded in square equals 4 stitches, but they're all double crochet. So we have our 2 shaded in boxes and our open space. Next, our graph says we need 9 shaded in boxes. So an easy way to remember how many double crochets you need, you take the number of boxes that you have on your graph, and for us, for row number 2, that's 9, and you multiply it by 3. So in the next 27 stitches, I'm going to work a double crochet. Once you have worked a double crochet into the next 27 stitches, we're going to chain 2 for our space. Remember that this last double crochet counts as the first double crochet of the next block that we're working, and that happens to be a space. So we've got our double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and a double crochet into the next. And you can see from the graph we've now created on that side, that right side, our space. The graph now says we have 2 shaded in blocks, which means that the next 6 stitches are going to be all double crochets. So a double crochet into each of the next 6 stitches, and your last stitch will be that turning chain. So in the top of a turning chain, you just work a double crochet. Sometimes they're kind of hard to find, but you want that the top of that turning chain, just work a double crochet. And there is row 2. For row 3, and we're reading right to left now, we want a chain 3 to start. Every row is going to start with that chain 3, turn, and that does count as your first double crochet. Now the graph says that we have a shaded in block and then a space. So there's the first stitch of our shaded in block. We need 3 more double crochets to complete the 4 stitch per block. So a double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Now we have a space. This double crochet that we just ended with on this block counts as that first double crochet for our space. So that's a double crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and a double crochet into the next. And now we've created that space. Reading the graph, we have 11 shaded in blocks. So 11 times 3 is 33. So I need to work a double crochet into the next 33 stitches. When you are working over a space, those 2 chains count as stitches. So my first double crochet of those 33 I need is going to be in that first chain. And I like to try to work into the actual chains and not into the space. So I've worked into the chains with 2 of my 33 stitches that I need. So I'm going to work double crochet all the way down. I am at the end of this row 3. I've worked my 33 double crochets. So the graph says that we need a space. So there is the double crochet that starts a space. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet into the next for a space. Now you should have 3 stitches left, one of them being that turning chain. The graph says we need a block, so we're going to work a double crochet into those last 3 stitches. And you're always going to end with working into the top of your turning chain. So there is row 3. For row 4, we start with a chain 3, turn. We're reading from left to right on the graph, and the graph starts us out with 5 blocks. So we're going to work a double crochet into the next 15 stitches. I have my 15 double crochets, 16 total counting that end one, that chain 3 that we did. The graph now wants us to work 2 spaces. So here is the first double crochet of my first space. I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, and that is space number 1. That is the first double crochet or stitch of space number 2. So I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next stitch for space number 2. Reading the graph, we now see a shaded block. So we want 4 double crochets. That is double crochet number 1. So a double crochet in the next 3. And that gives us our 4 double crochets for a shaded in block. We now need to work 2 more spaces. There is stitch number 1 for space, for the first space. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next, and that gives us 2 spaces. The graph now has all shaded in blocks, which means that every stitch is a double crochet, and you should have 15 of those. So go ahead and work a double crochet into the next 15, and that includes the top of the turning chain. You always want to remember to include that turning chain as a stitch. So that is row 4. Rows 5 and 6, even though you're reading them right to left and left to right, are exactly the same. So I'm going to show you row 5 and then just repeat that again for row 6. We're going to chain 3, turn. We're going to work a double crochet into the next 12 stitches. So remember that counts as a stitch, so work into the next stitch over. 12 double crochets, 13 counting that first one, that chain 3 that we did. Reading the graph, we need 7 spaces. So we have the start of our first space here. So I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next, space 1. That's the start of space 2. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. That is space 2. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. Space 3. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. Got 4 spaces. I need 3 more. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, and 1 more, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next, for 7 spaces. The rest of the graph is shaded in for rows 5 and 6, so you can just work a double crochet into every stitch, including the top of the turning chain, to complete this row. Row 5 completed. Row 6, like I said, is exactly the same, so just go ahead and repeat what I just showed you for row 5, and then I will meet you at the end of row 6. For row 7, we are reading from right to left. So we need to start with 2 blocks. So as usual, I'm going to chain 3, turn. This counts as my first double crochet, sitting right over top of that one. I'm going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Block 1. This last stitch counts as the first stitch of our next block. So I'm going to double crochet into the next 3 for block number 2. 2 blocks complete. We now have a space. So a space is a chain 2, And this last double crochet counts as that first double crochet of our space. So I've got my double crochet here, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet next. Now we've got our space. The graph says we now need 5 blocks. So I'm going to double crochet into the next 15 stitches. When you get to a space, work in the chains and not in the space. So work right into those chain stitches. So the graph now says we need 2 spaces. So a space starts with that double crochet from our previous block. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet in the next. There's 1 block. We need 1 more block. There's our first double crochet of our next space. So we're going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. We now need a block. So there's our first double crochet, a double crochet in the next 3. When you're working over the spaces, make sure that you're going into the actual stitch. So there's our block, and now we need 5 spaces. So we're basically going to be working a space over the next 5 spaces that we created from the row below. So you're basically just going to follow this kind of mesh pattern. Chain 2, skip those open chains, double crochet in the top of your double crochet from the previous row. So there's a space, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. We want 5 total spaces, so I've got 2 right now. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. I've got 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. The graph says we need a block, so I'm going to double crochet in the next 3, working into those chain stitches. 1, 2, double crochet in the next. We've got our block. I need 2 spaces, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. 1 more space, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next, skip 2, and into the next, double crochet. We have 6 stitches left, which will equal our 2 boxes on the end. So just go ahead and double crochet into each of those stitches, and make sure you double crochet into the top of your turning chain. And just find that 3rd one from the bottom and just double crochet into it. And that is row 7. For row 8, we are now reading left to right. We start with 1 block. So I'm going to chain 3, turn, and work a double crochet into the next 3. Remember that that chain 3 counts as a stitch, so you don't work back into that first stitch. So a double crochet in the next 3 to get our first block. The graph now says we need 4 spaces, so I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, 2 spaces, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, 3 spaces, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, We have our 4 spaces. We now need a block, so I'm going to double crochet in the next three spaces. So I'm going to work 3 spaces over the next 3 spaces. So chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 1, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 2, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 3. We're going to work a block now, so I just need a double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Those chains over your spaces always count as stitches. We now need 4 spaces, so I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 1, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 2, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next space number 3, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 4, and we need a block on the end. We have 3 stitches left, including that turning chain. So I'm going to work a double crochet into each of those next 3. Row 9, we're working right to left. We're going to start with a chain 3, turn, work a block, so a double crochet into those next 3 stitches. We now need 5 spaces, so I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, space number 1, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for space number 2, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, space 3, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, space number 4, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for your 5th space. We need a block, space, block. So I'm going to work a double crochet in the next 3 for my block, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next for my space, and a double crochet in the next 3 for my next block. 5 spaces, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next. You should have 3 stitches at the end, double crochet into each of those stitches, including that 3rd one, which is the top of your turning chain. Row 10, we're going to start with a chain 3, turn. We have 2 blocks right off the bat, so I'm going to double crochet into the next 3 for block number 1, and again a double crochet into those next 3 stitches for block number 2. So we have our 2 blocks on the end, and now I need a whole bunch of spaces. So again, even number, we're on row 10, reading left to right. We see all of those spaces in the middle. An easy trick is to see that at the end of the row we have 2 blocks, which would be a double crochet into those 4 there, and into the 2 chains, and into that double crochet, and that would be our 2 blocks on the end. So we basically need to create spaces over all of these stitches in between. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chain 2, skip 2, double crochet. Do the same thing all the way across, ending with the double crochet in that last double crochet here before that last space, and then just work a double crochet into all of those stitches to create my 2 blocks on the end. That is sort of a cheat way to do it. If you wanted to count, if that's easier, then all you would do is just chain 2, skip 2, double crochet in the next, and you would create spaces. As the graph says, we need 11 spaces total. So there's my first one, I need 10 more, and I should end up right here on that stitch with 2 blocks at the end. So I'm going to go ahead, work my spaces all the way across, and I will meet you at the end of row 10. After you've worked all of those spaces, we're going to work 2 blocks. So I've got the first double crochet of that first block, work a double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and that's block number 1. And then we have 3 stitches left. I'm going to work a double crochet into each of those 3, one of them being the top of the turning chain, and that will give us our 2 blocks on the end for row 10. Row 11, we're reading right to left. We're going to start with a chain 3 and turn, and this is where it gets really easy because it's a mirror image of itself. So once you do row 10, you're going to be repeating these rows that we had done previously. So I'm not going to walk you through each of these next rows. I'm going to tell you which row to refer back to, and then you can just repeat that if you need the video tutorial for that specific row. So for row 11, we are repeating row 9, which is this row right under the one we just did, and you can just follow along row 9 for row 11. Row 12 is going to be for row 8, row 13 will be row 7, rows 14 and 15 are just like the rows that we did for rows 5 and 6. So those are those 2 rows that are exactly the same. Row 16 corresponds with row 4 down here. So I will work those rows off camera and then I will meet you at row 17. I have worked up through row 16. There's where we finished off together row 10, and then 11 was the same as 9, 12, 8, and so on. So you're basically just cutting that in half and it's a mirror image of itself. Row 17, we're reading right to left on the graph, all shaded in, which means all double crochets. Start with a chain 3, turn, and work a double crochet into each stitch all the way across. Remember to work a double crochet into the top of that turning chain. At the end of row 17, you will have something that looks like this. We're done with the main fillet pattern in the center. We have 3 rows left. Row 18 is the same as row 3. So if you need help, refer back to the video for row 3. Row 19 is the same as row 2. And even though you're reading the graph from different sides, depending on if it is an even or an odd, the way these graphs are worked, it is mirror images. So it really doesn't matter if you're reading all the rows from right to left or all from left to right. It'll work out in the same way. But typically you read a graph, the odd rows right to left and the even rows left to right. Row 20 is all double crochet, just like we did for row 17 and for that first row at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead, finish my last 3 rows, and then we'll take a look at the March filet square together. The March square cloverleaf completed. You may notice that you get some bunching. That is perfectly normal. It just has to do with the tension and having the spaces mixing with a lot of the blocks. If you think your square is bunching or not quite square enough, feel free to go ahead and block any of your squares out. The most important thing about this calendar blanket is having the same number of stitches and rows for each month. So it'll all work out in the end, but I know that some of these squares can get a little wonky when doing a number of spaces mixed with those blocks, those double crochet stitches. So I hope this extended tutorial was helpful for our March filet crochet square. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for April. Happy crocheting. Bye.